The Earnestly Speaking podcast is a show that is founded on free-flowing conversation and may at times venture into mature subjects. Listener discretion is advised.
Yeah, Earnestly Speaking podcast. Let's get it. I'm a giant in New York, in Miami carry heat. So much more in store, my product can flood the street. Opinion Nation Godfather, CEO. Pop in the late 90s, gon' see me blow. Oh, got my hustle on, no imitation of bad. Army of untouchables, Opinion Nation staff. Never an off season, homie, check the numbers. Heart throbbing my own right, supplying southern comfort. Earnestly speaking, my ego is well fed. Earnestly speaking, you're too evil and no threat. See, I'm like a hurricane, you're a mild breeze. Earnestly speaking, leaving Eli a dynasty. Shake!
Earnestly Podcast coming to you Tuesday, Election Day, November 5th, 2024. Our world has come to an end, guys, but we're here. Election Day. Holy shit. After all that's happened, the two assassination attempts, a sitting president decided to lead the race, a primary that went crazy last year. By the way, the Republican primary is like ages ago, doesn't it? Like ages ago. Remember when Ron DeSantis was a thing, and Nikki Haley was a thing, and Doug Burgum and Asa Hutchins was a thing back then? You remember that? We are finally here. Election day, Kamala Harris, Donald Trump. Look, I really hope we find out results tonight. And I hope, regardless who wins the election, I hope it's a convincing winner either way, because I don't need this shit being, tight margins here, a vote recount in this state here. No, look, if you want this thing to not be chaos, let this shit be a blowout. Now, granted, you already know how I feel, who I voted for. Not to go over that all over again. You already know. But more than anything else, guys, go out and vote. Make your voice be heard. If you ain't voting, then what are we doing here? You need to keep your mouth shut. you have no say in the conversation. And not just because of Kamala Harris and Donald Trump, for the record, but local elections, amendments, propositions, state senators, judges, school boards, propositions. That shit matters. I'm gonna tell you right now, that matters more actually than the actual presidential election, because that stuff impacts you directly. You know what I'm saying? So hold on, I'm trying to my light. There we go. Fix my lighting here. I want a little more orange, if you will. But there's a few things here before I get into today's podcast. I want to touch on. First off, you already know. I did the last episode I recorded on Sunday. I went through a little more political, politics in my thoughts on the election. I'm going to say it again. I'm not making a formal prediction, and this is why. I said this on the last episode. Like, if you'd ask, I just have a feel on this election. If you'd asked me a week ago at this time, I would have said Donald Trump was going to win the election. And then this weekend we had the recent polls that came out. Specifically Iowa, the Ann Seltzer poll, which is A+ poll for the record, that had Kamala Harris +3. Now, and again, in a state that Kamala Harris is not even campaigning at, nor running any significant ads there, because that's going to go to Trump, and Trump is still going to win that state most likely. But it's important to know that polling is almost always accurate with the national polling in general. So the thing is, the takeaway from that is that if the polling is showing Kamala +3, even if Trump wins +5 or less, that is a clue of deterioration on the Trump side. And if that is reflecting in the Iowa poll, in a state that Trump, I think, won by 8 points, 9 points, I believe, in 2020, and he won also, I think, by the same margin in 2016, then what is to be said about, especially specifically the states, the battleground states nearby Iowa, the Michigans, the Wisconsins, the Pennsylvanias, the 3 states that are going to play inside this election? That's why that poll was very telling. And I also do know that in 2022, 3 of 4 Democratic seats, 3 of 4 Democrats won those. I think state seats also in that region by virtue of the abortion the abortion bill. Roe v. Wade is very much on the ballot for this election. Still, 2 years later, 2.5 years later, since it got overturned. Okay, and I'll tell you right now, my own wife, who's much more left than I am, is absolutely furious. And you got to figure there's a lot more women who are furious, at that thing. And we saw in 2022, which I got wrong for the record, that I remember 2022 on this podcast I said there'll be a red wave, and I was dead fucking wrong about that. You guys know that I was dead fucking wrong about that. So logically, if there's deterioration in Iowa, you have to assume there's deterioration elsewhere, specifically in the battleground states of Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, which that is the ball game, folks. That is the ball game. But I'm gonna tell you guys right now, keep an eye on North Carolina, and honestly, keep an eye on Nevada as well too tonight. Those are the other 2 states I'm looking at as wild cards. There's some interesting polling coming up there as of late. But like I said, go out and vote. It's today's last day to vote. For anything, for your local elections, all that. I've been on some, a lot of conversations this morning about, and I have friends on both sides of the aisle having good conversations about the election and everything around it, and people are nervous. My wife's fucking nervous. Hell, I'm a little bit nervous myself, but I'm also, election night for me is also, this is my Super Bowl. I love politics. I love politics. I follow this stuff like I follow sports. You guys know we talk about this on the podcast a lot. I try not to inundate you with a lot of political talk on this podcast as much, but you do know that politics is part of our lives now, and I have to talk about the things that are interesting. So, that being said, we shall see. We shall see. A couple of things here. I do want to play a couple of things here before we get to our guest for today. First thing, Joe Rogan yesterday officially endorsed Donald Trump. Not a surprise, honestly. I mean, look, Joe Rogan's had him, Trump, and JD Vance on his podcast the last week or so. Kamala Harris, Tim Walz did not go on his podcast. There was an invite. Kamala even said she'll do it, but she'll do it remote. That didn't work out, obviously. And a lot of folks feel kind of way about that. I understand. I'm a little bit weird about it too, also, because Joe Rogan did say that he would never have Trump on his podcast about 2-3 years ago. Which by the way, for me, I don't want to brag here. I don't want to brag. I'm going to brag here. I call bullshit back then. I call bullshit because I said there's no way in hell if Donald Trump has a chance to be on your podcast, you're gonna have the 45th president of the United States opportunity to talk to him in a conversation. You're not going to talk to him. He looked at it as a sign of endorsing at the time. I'm like, no, you got to have a conversation. You've had Bernie Sanders in your podcast before. You've had many political figures in the podcast before. Why? What makes Trump any different? Yeah, bigger name, bigger brand. We get that, but what makes me different? So him endorsing Donald Trump, which, okay, again, 2 words: audience capture. Audience capture, folks. You guys know what it is? It's his audience. His audience is mostly right-leaning, mostly men and right-leaning. And he is caught up by that. And that's why his content in the last couple of years has gone a little more, or seemingly on right wing, even though Joe Rogan continues to profess that he's a left-wing guy. I have no reason to believe he's not. But then again, some things there's a bit of sensitivity now with people who are unauthentic on the left, like people like Tulsi Gabbard and RFK Jr., which for the record have absolute gripes to have against the Democratic Party, but don't no longer speak about the principles of what made them liberal or leftists or progressives. So that's where the okie doke here with Rogan comes into also. Do you still feel the same way you feel about UBI, universal healthcare? Because again, for me, I'm not into the culture shit. You guys know how I roll. I'm a policy guy. I'm a moderate. I'm a moderate center left guy. I'm free speech. I'm pro guns. I'm also pro choice. So does Rogan still have those same values, or is this about him not wanting to support a party that he no longer believes in the things he believes in, which I don't know. I mean, I guess it's complicated in some ways because Democrats are frustrating. I get that. I spoke on this podcast many times over. Democrat Party is very frustrating, but at the same time, you still have to have principles. And has he abandoned those principles now because he is now caught up by audience capture? And if he were to endorse Kamala Harris, for example, or don't endorse at all, does his audience he has currently leave him as a result? We've seen that before in the past, that people will cancel folks because they don't get the political views, which I think is utter bullshit, in my opinion. It's utter bullshit. Why can't we have opinions? You folks into this podcast, or watch me on YouTube, of course, at youtube.com/Earnest Christian. Every fucking thing that comes out of my mouth, okay? And look at me when I say this to you. Everything that comes out of my mouth is authentic, is what I believe in, okay? I will call out anybody. I'll call out anybody on the left and the right. You see it in this podcast. You see it in the show. I've had conservatives, liberals, you name it, centrists on the show having conversations with me, okay? Because it's important to have those conversations. And I'm never going to change from that. That will never be me, okay? So do know with the content we do on this feed is 1,000% authentic, okay? 1,000% authentic, all right? So with Rogan, we'll see. I don't know. Like, he endorsed Donald Trump. He said he'd never do it. Now he did it. He said never Donald Trump on the show, and he did it. So is he full of shit? Did he change his views? Some may say yes. Who knows? Anyway, before we get started, I want to play the final ads from both candidates. Here, as I'm bringing up here, Donald Trump's ad here. I put in the wrong one actually. The wrong link here for I have Kamala's head up here. But I want to play the campaigns, both campaigns, final ads here. As we now have a right election day, of course. If I can find this. Hold on one second. All right. Where's it at? Come on. Where's it at? There it is. Okay, cool. All right. So here are the final ads for Donald Trump and Kamala Harris as we have now arrived at election day. Dude, we did it. We're here. Both ads I find very powerful for different reasons. Again, I'm being bipartisan here in terms of my coverage of both these candidates in terms of like how they're running the campaigns. Obviously, I know who I'm voting for. I already voted last Friday. You already know I'm leaning on that one. But in terms of my coverage, when I cover these campaigns, I cover it from a bipartisan, fairness point of view. If my computer will work properly, be nice. I'm trying to bring up Donald Trump's ad here. They won't do that. Oh, here it is. Okay, there it is right there. All right. Give me one quick second. But yeah, I try to cover this stuff from a bipartisan point of view. I'm gonna be critical who I want, and so it comes back to what I just said to you guys about being authentic, and I will always be authentic to who I am, always and forever. Because I don't see. I get the whole people wanting to be captured by audience capture and the corporations and all that stuff. This is why I don't take any money from any advertisers and stuff that not saying I would in the future, but it depends on who. I want to have the space to be able to say what I want to say and call it a day. Yeah. This is not working now. This is give me issues here. Give me a second. I'm still doing this right now. All right. This thing here. Today is a computer's. Was it election day crash today or something? I don't get it. Give me one quick second. All right, I think I got it. Finally got the Trump ad up. Here's Donald Trump's final ad here.
4 years ago, we took a wrong turn and lost our purpose. We lost the strength that makes Americans who we are. If we dared to speak the truth, it was called hate speech, and our values were labeled shameful. That's when everything we care about fell apart. We surrendered our borders, our paychecks, and our courage. Our patriotism was called toxic. Men could beat up women and win medals, but there was no prize for the guy who got up every day to do his job. Now we're being asked to settle for the way things are. And we're wondering if America can make a comeback. We can, because we've done it before. When we get knocked down, we don't stay down. We get up again. We fight. We fight. We fight.
I'm Donald J. Trump, and I approve this message.
I gotta say, the footage of him after getting shot and saying "fight, fight, fight," it's still very powerful stuff. You whether or not you love or hate Trump, that is still powerful shit. That is still very powerful. Just seeing the visual of seeing him saying "fight, fight, fight," very powerful stuff. And you know, once again, power messaging is important, man. It really is. But you know, one thing I will say, they keep leaning to this transgender thing. You know, I think it's a mistake. But again, they're tapping into the culture wars. You know. Okay, so now we have Donald Trump's last message before the election. Here is now Kamala Harris's. Here's her messaging as we get to the end of the this election cycle. Let me just fix it real quick. The playback speed a little faster, it's a little longer than this one. So 1 second. All right, there we go. All right, here we go.
Come here, Hannah. Shake my hand. How you doing?
Good.
And bring everybody back together. And that's exactly how I feel.
That's what I'm doing now.
Okay, you have to stay in touch with me, okay? I'm very serious about that. Okay. Throughout this campaign, I've seen the best of America, and I've seen what is holding you back and weighing you down. High costs, fundamental rights taken away, and politics that have driven fear and division. You deserve better. As president, I'll bring a new generation of leadership. I'll take on price gouging and bring down the cost of groceries and housing and prescriptions. I'll fight for your freedom to make your own choices, and I will protect your healthcare and your benefits, not take them away. The vast majority of people in our country have so much more in common than what separates them. Good people, hardworking people. We see in our fellow Americans neighbors, not enemies. We believe in each other. We believe in our country. We're not falling for these folks who are trying to divide us. Together, we'll build a brighter future for our nation, where we stand for freedom, we stand for justice, we stand for the dignity of work. We haven't yet quite reached all of those ideals, but we will die trying because we love our country. Now, the baton is in our hands. I pledge to seek common sense solutions to make your life better. And I pledge to be a president for all Americans. Now I'm asking for your vote, because as president, I will get up every day and fight for the American people. I'm Kamala Harris, and I approve this message.
I will say, like I said, I think her messaging is not more unifying than Trump's. Trump's is powerful in different ways for his base, but again, you're trying to bring in moderates and independents and whatnot. So that's one of the things that you got to figure it out. So anyway, that's that. So we are here election day, of course. Like I said, I don't have any predictions. As I will say, I think Kamala's going to win Michigan. She'll win Wisconsin, and that's where I feel about that. And I think she has a good chance North Carolina. I think Trump's definitely going to win Georgia and win Arizona. I think Nevada's a toss-up. Pennsylvania's a toss-up. Everything else in between. And of course, PA is the ball game. So, guys, stay safe. All I can tell you guys is just be vigilant. You know, be calm. I know there's a lot of anxiety with this election, but all I can tell you is just enjoy the ride. I mean, look, this is my Super Bowl. I'm a little different. I'm a little more different than everybody else when it comes to stuff, but just try to keep it together, everybody. We're probably arrived here, and hopefully we get a winner tonight. You know, so that's that. Anyway, it is time to talk some football here with the man Kyle Nash as we bring him in here in just a second. So we recap Week 9 NFL. Student Game Report. Election Day. Kyle Nash, excited with the election, aren't you? Look at you excited. Like,
what are we excited for?
I mean,
it's the last chance for you to vote, so do that. But then in maybe another 2 weeks, we'll actually find out who won the motherfucker. So there you go. Mm-hmm. What are we being excited for? You know what I'm excited for? I'm actually excited for recording the Student of the Game Midseason Awards with Mikey Byrne tonight. How about that shit?
Well, that's right. You get to do your midterms this week, finally. You know. Anyway, Kyle. How you feeling?
I hate, you know what? I hate, fall back,
Me?
clock
Me?
reset, EDT. No, you're not, I hate you.
Oh, what to say? Feeling some kind of way right
I
now.
hate the fact that you can't figure out who you're a fan of, but that's a whole other question.
How is that still a thing? I don't understand. I'm a Giants fan. I'm a Giants fan. What? Anyway, Kyle, when are the Chiefs gonna lose the first game? They ain't know now.
Buddy, have you understood how chaotic this season is? You think I'm going to do something stupid like try to predict when the Chiefs are going to lose? Granted, they had a fantastic chance on a Monday night, and listen, credit to the Bucks for doing what they did even without Godwin in the lineup. But
yeah,
man,
did Evans play last night? Evans played last night, right?
If he did,
it would see him last night. I was in and out of the game last night.
I have to be honest. I didn't watch Monday night. I don't think he was back yet, but it's coming soon. So perhaps, you know, I know doing research for your show is
did not play.
Oh, you already checked? Okay. I know research for your show is something you don't do on your own, but I was about to account for it. But yeah, I didn't think he did, but I didn't want to say it.
To be fair, though, I didn't watch the game. I watched the game, but it was on mute. I had the game in the background.
Well, to be fair, I didn't watch the game because I was supporting my good friend Donnie Doc Struble with the black and gold banneret as UCF upset number 13 Texas A&M there at the Edition Financial Arena. So there's that.
That's a big ass fucking bell there for you, for the record. That long, transfer to Bing, So yeah.
Yeah. Well,
okay,
hey, that bell is a big deal because it was the second season opening upset win in as many seasons for Johnny Dawkins and the UCF Knights, their first year in the toughest basketball conference in the nation for college basketball. So kind of a big deal there. By the way, all the people out there that wanted Johnny Dawkins fired, who's the bitch now? Moving on.
Okay. Predictions time. So next week they play the Broncos.
Okay. So
no, if I got the work, that's why. If I got the screen to fucking work.
No, buddy. I'm not hating. I'm appreciating. I make that big dunk and you're like, super. So
super. Anyway, down to the brass tacks here. Next week, Broncos.
It's something a lot more fun than sitting behind 20 minutes of you talking politics, right, Lebitard? Anyways.
Oh, God, really?
That might have been easier than dunking the donut in my coffee because I at least have to make the coffee when that happens. Moving on.
Let's do it this. Let's do it this way.
Yeah.
Percentage chance they lose the game. Broncos next week.
Next week
at home. Yeah, at Denver. Oh no, versus Denver at home.
Jeez.
I'm going to the schedule to see where's the first loss.
20%. Yeah.
20% chance they lose.
Yeah.
Okay. Week after that at Buffalo.
Okay, that's if it's going to happen, I think that's the week. Buffalo.
Yeah. I would say too. But the thing is still with me, I feel like with the Chiefs, they always lose the game they're not supposed to. So I'm trying to find the coal mine.
The Panthers are a bridge too far. Listen, the Panthers got a dude fired. I think they're done for the season. Okay.
Yeah. So 0%, 0.0, 0.0. Okay.
0.0.
What the Raiders?
No, that seems to. I have more faith in Week 14. The Chargers pulling that off
at home.
Yeah.
Okay. Week 15, Cleveland.
0.0.
Not even with James Wilson. Oh, come on. Okay, never mind.
0.0.
Oh, week 16 against at home against the Texans.
You know, Chris Jones will eat entirely too much for that to be plausible.
So Texans lose that game. Okay, so week 17 at Steelers. That's the game I think could be an issue.
That's the game because they will rest Patrick LaVon Mahomes II, having already clinched home field advantage.
Yeah, exactly. And then week 18 at Denver.
Possible, but not likely.
Yeah, so what we're saying here is that the Chiefs are the guaranteed number 1 seed in the AFC this year.
Yes, I do think the Ravens would have had a shot had they won in week 1 still, but at this point, even with the tiebreak, listen, This is kind of like when a Star Wars movie is out in theaters. You know, it's going to be number one opening weekend, and the rest are fighting for number two.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point. However, and I think this might reflect my rankings next tomorrow. We do a podcast. I don't think the Chiefs are the best team in football right now. I'm not sure I'm convinced that. I think Detroit after this week might be the one team in football right now.
I think, well, and that's an interesting take. I think the Chiefs are winning because they find the matchups. And by the way, we are underestimating the hell out of DeAndre Hopkins and the impact he's made. Like we get, oh, they got Macaulay Hartman. Woo! Why is nobody talking about D-Hop? What the hell are we doing here? Which, by the way, is that more of a endorsement of Kansas City or an indictment of the Tennessee Titans? You tell me, Earnest Christian. But
a little bit of both.
It's certainly elements of both, but I asked you which is more there, fence sitter. Anyways, so no, but listen, all joking aside, like I think we're not talking enough about that. And that has whispers of Odell Beckham Jr. being added to the Rams in their Super Bowl year. Granted, a far less explosive offense, but what do those teams have in common other than bringing in a rogue receiver late in the year, buddy? A great defensive tackle carrying them, and people aren't talking about it enough. Boom.
Yeah.
Also, but
again,
one more too, like we got to keep in mind that ankle thing that Patrick Lavon Mahomes II was dealing with at the end of
was it ankle? Was it a knee?
I think it's an ankle. If it was a knee, I'm incredibly doubtful they let him back in.
Yeah. Okay. He came back in the game and did his thing. And
he did Patrick Lavon Mahomes II things, buddy. I've seen that one in person. That's exactly what he did for Super Bowl 57, beating the Eagles. As much as certain people who are Eagle fans in your life, Eagles Jaworski, that will hear this statement and be unable to accept it as fact.
I'm gonna say something there, a bit of a hot take here, but follow me. Kansas City Chiefs kind of boring this year.
Are you giving me the Greg Popovich defense?
They're very Spurs. Like last year, you could have said, okay, well.
By the way, you see how I made an NBA point better than you on your own show, bitch?
I'm so proud of you. With my 13 years of training, I finally come to the head. I love it. Great job. Okay. Yeah, 13 years.
Great job. Best NBA teaching. I'm the best NBA teacher. No one teaches NBA better than me.
No one. But like last year, you could have said, okay, the Taylor Swift thing gave some sizzle. This year, the Swift thing is not so much a conversation
it's because people have figured out A, it ain't a big deal. B, Kelsey's having a very
solid,
non-explosive year. I mean, he's doing his damn job, and he's still.
But but they're 8-0, and it's like they're 8-0, but not like they're not dominating anybody. They're just going through, just doing the thing. Who it reminds me of the Spurs.
No, and the Spurs is a fine analogy. Let me be clear. I'm not dissing that, but you know who they.
No, you're right. You brought it up. You brought the Spurs, so that was your analogy, Popovich.
Okay, fine. But
I'm giving you credit for that.
Are, if you want to make a proper football analogy, they're your New England Patriots.
Patriots. I knew you were going to say the Patriots. I knew it. Yep.
Tell me I'm wrong, because you can't.
No, you're not wrong. You're not wrong. In fact, they remind me of the first three Brady rings, Patriots. Although
that's what
Mahomes is better than that Brady.
Right. And what's funny though is they kind of did it backwards. Like the first Kansas City Chiefs win were closer and aligned to those Patriots teams that we knew on the last rings that Brady got with the Patriots. But yeah, it's as Patrick Lavon Mahomes II is aging, he's looking more like young Brady. I don't know.
Yeah.
This is why we don't indict game managers, or shouldn't. Like maybe Patrick Lavon Mahomes II has a lot more interceptions than typical. We've seen him hit slumps before. This going back 2 or 3 years, was it, where you just refused to take them out of the top 10, even though they belonged out of it for a few weeks? Like we've seen Mahomes slump before. People are choosing to forget, I feel like. And that's on you. If you want to discount Patrick Lavon Mahomes II, hashtag you problem. No disrespect.
Yeah, I agree.
And Matt Muehlheisen or anybody else on the Huddle Up panel that does that. By the way, shouts to Huddle Up podcast. There we
go. Look, if I'm doing power rankings right now through week 9, I may put Detroit ahead of Kansas City, but I'm not convinced they're going to beat Kansas City in head-to-head in the Super Bowl because of the pressure and all the other intangibles we use to grade and stuff. If we're going based on a 9-week sample, who's looked better optic-wise, Detroit has more blowouts and they have more quality wins, I would say, on under the belt. But
just as a nature of their division, EJ, by accident.
Right, exactly. So, but am I convinced they're better than Kansas City? I would need to see it to believe it.
You just hold on, but chill out, Finsitter. You just said you think the Lions are better, right?
They have played better through 9 weeks. I'm saying what I'm using though is the beating quality opponents thing, and the way they're beating them. They beat down Green Bay. They beat down Minnesota was a little closer, but
okay. Here's how I'll set this up. So because I'm having trouble understanding you because you literally just said you don't think the Chiefs are the best team in football. That's the thing.
No, I said 9 weeks in.
Hold on, stop.
Go ahead.
You literally said, and okay, I'll add the 9 weeks in. You don't think the Kansas City Chiefs are the best team. You said that right here on your show. Okay. So here's how I'm going to set the table for you. I'm not going to call you a fence-sitter or a bitch or any of that, as tempting as that might be. Okay. Do you know what a console is from your Rogan history? Do you remember?
No.
Yes or no? Okay. They used to have
I don't remember that. No.
2 consoles that would run the Roman Republic. Okay. Instead of a committee, you and I are going to be 2 Roman consuls, and then the public out there with comments will break whatever tie we establish, which was the role of the Senate back in the Roman Empire days when they had, before Julius Caesar took over and became an emperor, blah, 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 right? Okay. We are a consul instead of a committee that does the college football playoff. We are a console, a pair of consoles that are doing the rankings. What I'm hearing you tell me is today, if you were doing the rankings for the NFL football playoff, that the Lions are the number 1 team in the NFL.
I would say yes.
Okay. Thank you for not fence sitting this time. And by the way, you have a great argument for it. And matter of fact, me, who would probably still put Kansas City at the top, you have a better argument, arguably, than I do. Granted, I would, of course, jokingly say the Lions have a quality loss in a Bucs team that was full strength at the time, losing that football game. Whereas the Chiefs, what's their signature win? Week 1?
Well, Baltimore, of course, is one of the bigger wins of the year you're going to have because it's Baltimore. Yep.
But the Bengals win is not shaping up to be anything that's a big deal. Are you impressed by beating the Broncos at all? They haven't played them yet, I know, but if they did, would you be? Probably not. Are you particularly impressed by them beating the Chargers in a game where I believe Justin Herbert couldn't finish the game because he got hurt? Right? That's not impressive.
And that's what I'm using.
About Vegas, it's effing pointless, right? So
I mean, my point, and that's what I'm using. It's more so. Look, I would never go 10 toes down and say, "Oh, the Lions better than the Chiefs," because I got to see that game before I make that decision.
But you sound like
I'm doing based on performance.
You're 7 toes down, is what I'll say, right?
I think when you do power rankings, it's more performance based too. Also, that's where performance weighs the argument too. Also. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
So the Lions have looked better than the Chiefs have this year.
Yeah, you've said that already. Right. Let me go through this. Here's the Chiefs' victory. Here's the Chiefs' schedule, which is tantamount to their victories list at 9-0.
Yeah.
Ravens, Bengals, Falcons, Chargers, Saints, Niners, Raiders, Bucks. Other than the Ravens, who's on the list for the signature win right now?
I would have said Bengals weeks ago, but no. But it looks bad now.
So here's what I think the correct answer is, and it's going to sound weird hearing me saying it. It's the Falcons. The Falcons are the next signature win after week 1.
It is. You're right. You're right. 6-3. Yeah.
Not exactly a glowing effing endorsement.
But of course, if you listen to podcasts for the last 12, 13 years, given our history with the Falcons, that's hard. That's hard to see. You and I, this whole segment, we shit on the Falcons all the time.
But let's reiterate what else that me, Kyle Nash, the student of the game, said on both Huddle Up and the Student of the Game podcast. The Falcons are winning 11 games this year.
Yeah.
And now that's looking even smarter than ever before. Right?
Absolutely. Given what's going on with the Bucs now, the injuries, and yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Now, I will
but we'll
grant
see. We'll see.
The Falcons won their most recent game more on the Cowboys having a bad defense and handing them the game back. More on that later. But you know, but the Falcons are a team that's good enough now to beat you if you get handed a game. They don't hand you the game back like the fraud cons of the past. Right. And by the way, I tried to tell you, but you wouldn't listen about Desmond Ridder. God damn it. Moving on.
Right. Anyway, Kyle, I think the Jets have a pulse still.
You're an idiot.
Albeit it's a light one, but a pulse.
You're an idiot.
Why?
You're just an idiot. You're just an idiot. Okay? I can't do any better than you're just an idiot. Do you understand what actually happened in that Texans game, though?
I'm not in a betting man. I would never bet them to go to playoffs on a record.
What the hell are we doing here?
But the AFC.
The words of Brad Pitt in Moneyball. What the fuck are we talking about here?
Yeah, I know. I understand. But the reason why they have a chance still in the AFC, and I'm not saying it's going to happen because of what they're doing. That's the environment. But the environment of the AFC wildcard situation is allowing them to still have a pulse.
God, you and your bad conference defense, Jesus, you obliterated the shit out of this last year at the NFC. So let me
I was right.
Let me better express the analogy I think you're groping for. And if you go along with me on this, I think I can capitulate it.
Go right ahead.
They don't have a pulse. Where they are is currently in the middle of flatlining, and there's something there that can continue to give compressions to simulate a heartbeat, as in teams handing them opportunities that may eventually get them back to having a pulse. They could get that help, which is what I felt like in the Houston Texan game. By the way, the Texans themselves kind of decimated with injuries, right? The receiver situation's tough. Will Anderson got hurt. And oh, by the way, here's what's funny to me, EJ Christian. Okay? CJ Stroud gets victimized with shitty line play. Oh my gosh, how do they let CJ Stroud get hit like that? Trevor Lawrence gets fucking jacked. What are they going to do about Sunshine? When's somebody going to put the blame on Sunshine? Anybody else notice that shit? And by the way, I'm not trying to make this a racial element. No.
But.
No, I'm not. I know somebody's going to interpret that.
Of course they are. That's just what people do now.
I'm saying it's just more crapping upon the Jags as a franchise, which you're allowed to do. Granted, they didn't have some sort of a deviant at quarterback and tried to hide it from the world. They only had a rat infestation. But listen, joking aside, I can't help but point out the offensive line has been an issue for this Texans team. And you got to notice when Mixon's, this is kind of like the Giants and Eli in the later years, right?
Yeah.
It was not Jennings. What was that running back's name on his way out who could never say
Rashard Jennings? Rashard Jennings.
It is Jennings. Okay, Rashard Jennings. Yeah.
He's really good. Just because he's healthy.
Yes, I said that. So when there was balance, there was hope.
Yeah.
But when Mixon isn't 100, there's no balance. That means CJ's having to do everything, which he can do unless he's getting obliterated. Like his passing numbers looking similar to Josh Allen against the Texans with a concussion it's eerie how similar they were. So yeah, obviously the Jets won against a late in life Aaron Rodgers, who's now more of a game manager than a gunslinger.
Yeah.
This is how that game happened. By the way, crazy shit happens on Thursday night sometimes, guys. So I think
by the way, the Jets did not
convince themselves that they're better than they are with more weak teams coming up on the schedule.
Right. And that's the thing too. Also, too, I'm just saying the pulse is there because of the environment. They weren't impressed on Thursday Night Football either. The Texans can win that game.
Do you understand why I'm using the compressions analogy?
Right, but the environment and then the schedule, upcoming schedule coming up, gives them a chance. I think the AFC wild card bar is now lowered to 9 wins.
You said that I think 2 weeks ago, right?
Right, and I think it's still prevalent. And to be honest with you, the way things look right now through 9 weeks, it would not shock me if the 7th seed is an 8-9 team. It would not shock me.
And you have here on the screen for those that aren't watching the Earnest EJ Christian YouTube channel.
Yeah, correct. Here are the next four games real quick
Please tell the people the compressions. Go.
Okay. At Cardinals, Colts, Seahawks at home, and at Dolphins. Now, the Cardinals obviously are much better than we thought they were. 5-4, first place in the NFC West right now. So that's a lot tougher game, obviously, for them of the four. We agree to that, right?
I can make an argument that if the Seahawks don't give away the game like they did against the Rams this past week, they could be the tougher team.
Possibly, but it's at home. But again,
it's the fact that we don't know about these two teams that give the Jets life, right?
My question: can they go 3-1 this stretch? 3-1.
Can they? Is it possible? Yeah. You know what? I'll actually take over your role as host and use your question as it should have been posed. Percent chance they go 3-1, 65.
I like that number. I'm there too. I'm there too. All right. So at that point, there'll be 6 and 7 at that point. Okay. So now my 8 again. I said that I can see a scenario
with the Rams next, where they're either injured or trying to shoot themselves in the foot by getting themselves ejected. Shouts to Puka Nacua. You know, of course, all of that.
I said I see a scenario right now where, based on the way AFC looks right now, that a 8-win team might get into the playoff as a 7 seed. Okay, your next 4 after that: Jaguars, Rams, Bills on the road, and then the Dolphins at home. I mean, can you see even a 2-2 scenario there? I could.
2-2 for which part? You lost me on your question.
But for the last 4, at Jaguars, Jets, at Bills, and Dolphins. No, sure. Sorry. At Jaguars, Rams, at Buffalo, Dolphins. 2-2 get you 8 wins. What hurts them is tiebreakers, though. They lost out to Denver. The tiebreaker to Denver is gone, and Denver is in that mix right now with of those wildcard teams. I don't see that sustaining that going forward. But I can see 8 wins here, based on a 2-2 scenario here and a 3-1 scenario in the first four games in the bracket. Okay,
and they could kind of sneak themselves into
a 9-win.
Deliver
right.
A Broncos team, by the way, that still has to play a currently 9-0 Chiefs team twice.
Right.
Before the year is
twice.
Done. No, I hear you. I hear you.
That's what I'm saying. And outside the Ravens or Steelers situation, who wins the wild card and who wins the division, who was guaranteed to get a spot, in my opinion. And then you have the Chargers in that wild card scenario. You have Chargers, Colts. Who else in that wild card? Chargers, Colts, Broncos. Okay, maybe the Chargers sustain that. I think the Chargers sustain that, which means one spot open, and that one spot's wide open. I think that 17 is wide open,
and it's waiting to be claimed by Jacksonville. I'm obviously joking. No, the reason
2-6, 2-7.
Yeah, no, it's so ridiculous. Yeah. Here's where I'm at, though. I make the joke about the Jaguars to segue into this. I'm 10 toes down that Aaron Charles Rodgers does not get past Jacksonville.
I can see that.
The reason why I say that is because that pass rush is enough to frustrate him into making a mistake. And when he makes a mistake, he's begun shutting down in games.
Correct.
I might be accidentally previewing my keys to the game for week 15. But make sure you check that out on Fans First Sports Network, by the way. But listen, I've made my voice clear in the preseason editions of the Duval Dive. Shouts to Travis Holmes. 1, I'm this shocked Aaron Charles Rodgers is still healthy. I'm sad that I'm correct as I am about Anthony Richardson falling apart, dealing with health stuff, blah, 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 blah. Although his not starting may not have been related to health on Sunday night. By the way, what a garbage fest. Boy, am I glad I didn't watch that game. But by the way, look out for me and Travis potentially on the Let's Skol podcast. Anyways,
Let's Skol.
See, you get it.
I totally get it.
I may have to be in a position to tribute them by doing a standing jumping jack. It's great.
So what I hear from you is that even though you and I are on the same page about the Jets not in the playoffs, you do agree with me that there's still a pulse there.
No. You're not listening to the analogy, so I'm going to say it again. They don't have a pulse. But they will help in the form of compressions from sorry-ass teams that will hand them opportunities.
So you agree with me. Very good. Good job.
No.
Other than getting in anyway. I'm just saying that,
So then you agree with me, actually. Because a pulse means you think they're going to get in my opinion, in my estimation.
No, I'm saying that the pulse has to have a chance still to get in.
I'm telling you the chance isn't as good as you're portraying. But yeah, there's some there. Okay. They need help, sure.
But they need help. They need to do their fucking job. And I think the way they're playing is not convincing enough to believe that they can make it to the finish line.
Which is why I make the analogy about getting help in the form of compressions to CPR their chances back to life.
The only reason I didn't give them a chance because they of the bunch in that group, 7 seed potential, they are the most talented of the 7 seed.
The New York Jets over the hubba money. Who do you trust? Do you trust the Jets?
I don't trust the New York Jets. I do not.
What the fuck are we talking about?
Because content, bitch.
No, you just like me doing my.
One last NFL thing here. Dak Prescott to miss multiple weeks. I mean, we probably did this weeks ago, but we'll have to say it again.
Yeah.
Time to bury the Cowboys for good. No polls, right? No, 0 polls for the Cowboys, right?
Listen, only a Cowboy fan would imply that there's a pulse possible. Earnest Christian. So yeah, man, no, Dunzo, Dazinski, bye, see ya. May the force be with you. Blah blah blah. By the way,
Jerry
why
Jones
are you talking about getting dunked so hard on your Facebook page for keeping the Bills out of the playoffs? Why are we talking
about shit? I'll bring it up. I'll bring it up to my friend Courtney. Fan of the show. By the way, fan of the show too, Courtney. Good job by her.
Yeah, shouts to Courtney. Obviously, she's well aware of how I have a superior football intellect to you by now, and am developing a basketball one that will dunk on your silly face.
Well, you always got basketball because you 7'5" you learned from me. Okay, thank you very much.
Oh, is that it? When's the last time you even talked basketball with me?
With you? Last week, dumbass.
When did I talk basketball with you last
Paulo
week?
Bancaro, man.
Did you come on my show?
And then he got her, and then on this show last week.
You know who came on my show actually was Philip Rossman Reich of Locked On Magic.
Correct.
Who I told you should host.
I'm sorry.
Look at that. Look at that solid marketing skill I just laid on you, bitch. What?
I love it. But that's not Earnest EJ Christian. And number 2, on this show, on this segment last week, we opened the report discussing Paulo Bancaro.
Yeah, we did.
Okay, top 10 player.
Paulo Bancaro is good. Ooh, that's a hot take.
No. Paulo Bancaro, top 10. And then 2 days later, he gets fucking hurt.
Yeah, well, thanks for jinxing him, dickhead. So,
so our friend Courtney, I'm gonna
life. Him, Wendell Carter, Koga Patase. Anyways, continue. Sorry.
I'm gonna find this tweet, this Facebook post from my friend Courtney, friend of the show.
You don't even know who Goga Patase is, do you, basketball guy?
I do not.
Yeah. Well, I know everything about the NBA. I've heard.
So if you look at the screen here, this thing can pop up quickly. There it is, right there. Perfect. All right. So my friend Courtney, massive Bills fan, called me out on my predictions last year.
Rightly so.
Right. So earlier in the year, I had predicted that
make sure you zoom in for the YouTube audience.
You can
see the words "embarrassing take" in bold with an arrow pointing at the Cleveland Browns making the fucking playoffs. Make sure you zoom in.
I am. I'm trying. That's as far as I can go.
Control, and then there it is. There it is.
Right there. All right. So Browns wild card, Jets wild card, Dolphins win the East, no Bills anywhere. All right.
Pointing at the Cleveland Browns, embarrassing take.
Yeah. Then she goes further. And she talk about her. She knows her shit.
I don't know about all
she
that.
Goes,
listen, until somebody mentions their defensive tackle core, I don't declare them knowing their shit if they're a Bills.
Let me read her what she said that. The disrespect for the back-to-back champion, as per usual, saving this post. Not even the playoffs. You are letting the sweltering heat warp your brain. Fish aren't even winning wild card number 2. So it's going to be an uphill battle all year. Jets are just not a well-run organization, and there we go. But we know our best work is this way, so I like it. Buffalo for everybody. She puts hashtag know her shit.
Yeah, but
she's not wrong, dude, on this one, man. She
hold
cooked me.
on. Slow down there, kiddo. She currently has the benefit of hindsight in that.
Yes.
She didn't know Tua was going to get hurt in week 2. Okay.
I had told her on there to what did I say? Hold on, where's it at? I told her streaks may be broken.
Unsubstantiated bravado, by the way, in caps by her.
Courtney's awesome. I love Courtney. She's awesome. And then I told her, what was? Oh, it's not there. Oh shit, it's not there.
Wrong way, kid.
1, 2, 3.
Oh no,
it's only three. It's only three. Okay. No, I told her take a picture. Put some flowers next to it. I don't give a damn. I know I'm right. Oh, there it is. Be
careful what you wish for, folks. Courtney might just make it happen.
She might cook me. So I go take a screenshot, decorate even, put some flowers around it and spruce it up. I welcome this critique. Courtney, you're right. Courtney, you got me.
See, here's what
it is.
Here's what it is, folks.
But you know what? I'm a man. I own up my mistakes.
Allegedly.
The Browns take was shitty. Okay. The Jets take looks shitty right now. We'll see if my pulse thing earlier in the segment.
If your CPR concept exists, yes. Well, here's the thing. We've been telling you your Browns take has been shitty for a while. But Courtney says it, and suddenly she's a genius. Bruh, stop it. You have your front teeth are split because the basketball has been dunked through the hoop into your mouth, causing the need for dental work. And we won't even get started on Eli dunking on you. I tried to tell you, but you wouldn't listen. Isn't it crazy that I can do an impression of your son? Anyways,
better than my son. Anyway, Dak's out. So fuck the Cowboys. All right.
Stop this and Riptide Rush, man. I'm telling you.
We'll see. Let's get to college football. I'm more excited about that anyway. Top 25's out. And tonight we're gonna know the.
Boy, you so.
By the way, I don't know why they do this on election night, but we're gonna find on this election night. We're gonna find out the first playoff 12 rankings tonight.
Because we'll need distraction from watching a bunch of numbers and graphs and polls that mean dick.
True. All right, 25. 25, I think, newly ranked Louisville.
I mean, you're rewarding them for a week of something that didn't really feel like a big accomplishment to me, but okay, sure.
All right. 24, they're back. Vanderbilt.
The reason why I'm not critical of 25, they stopped being cowards a second time. Continue.
Love it.
You like
23 down 5. I love it. 23 down 5 spots. Pittsburgh.
Yeah, they haven't even had to win a triple overtime game yet, right? This is going to pan itself out as being absolutely stupid soon enough. Continue.
All right, 22 down 5 spots. Kansas State.
You know, I'm glad they were gracious enough to keep them in the top 25. I will say that.
Okay, up 2 spots. Oh my Lord, up 2 spots. Colorado, baby.
And they're too low.
Uh-oh. Make the argument.
I don't need to make the argument. Show the next 2 teams ahead of them, and you'll know I'm right.
Okay. 20.
I'm saying that for the podcast audience because if you're looking at the EJ Christian YouTube channel, you'll see what I'm saying here.
Yeah. Number 20. Up 2
spots.
By
the way, what's the TikTok handle?
Ernest Christian.
Ernest Christian. There you go. This probably be a TikTok too, so I wanted to shout.
It will be a TikTok. It will. 20 up 2 spots. Washington State.
That's why? Right. Who the fuck? What have you done lately? Why am I impressed by you? Because you only have 1 loss? Sure. And if I fight 10 8th graders, I should probably have 1 loss or less, right?
Yeah. All right. Down 8 spots. Your favorite team, Clemson.
It's not enough. Continue.
I agree. Up 3 spots. Oh my Lord. Army.
You know, this is a nice little dream, and they're rewarding an undefeated team, and I respect that. It's temporary. I'm sorry.
All right, down 6 spots. Iowa State, first loss.
I get penalizing them for losing to Texas Tech. And EJ, I know there are other forces that claim that I only hurt certain teams that are overrated as hell on this panel. But please confirm for the public at large that this is a Lucifer Morningstar of the highest order when it comes to the esteemed Matt Campbell, who, and I'm not saying that sarcastically, Matt Campbell's a coach that I dig. Okay. But this team, I tried to tell you, but you wouldn't listen. And they haven't even gotten to the toughest part of their schedule yet, buddy.
Right. All right. Let's see. Where am I at now? Oh, all right. Up 3 spots. Ole Miss.
Boy, that Georgia game this weekend's going to be pretty damn interesting.
Ooh, can't wait, buddy. Can't wait for that one.
Did you Bart Scott that Humpy Bumpy?
Can't wait. Can't wait. Yeah. Down 5 spots. Texas A&M. After we gave all this praise last week, they go and do that shit. Down 5 spots. A&M.
Oh, hold on. Who gave Texas A&M praise? It was not this guy. By the way, so much for a Notre Dame signature win. Am I right?
All right. Up 2 spots. LSU.
Go Navy. Woo! Anyway.
Oh, wow. Up 7 spots. SMU. You know, I haven't heard of what the hell are we doing here yet on the segment? Is this it?
I'm trying to be less angry as a performer. Listen, I know you all want to watch the monkey dance and do all that and put me on TikTok either saying good Christ or for fuck's sake or whatever. Well, it's not just you. There are other people that want me to just be angry. I'm trying to take that out of my repertoire a little bit, I'll be honest. But the punchline is this. Jesus Christ. I'm getting dizzy from the way you're flipping the screen around, EJ.
I'm trying to utilize it a little more.
At the risk of a joke, can you put me back on top, please? That's a better angle. So, thank you. Yeah, I know that's what she said. But
she did say that though. She likes on top. Oh,
Christian.
Paper
I meant the
handed.
thank you part.
Oh, okay. My bad.
Yeah, SMU is, speaking of, that's what she said. Janet Jackson is in SMU's future. I'm gonna leave it at that. Go.
All right. Number 12, up 3 spots, Boise State.
Boise State should be ranked ahead of the 2 teams that are currently ranked ahead of them. You'll hear shortly. Here comes. Here's your hot take, bitch.
Okay, number 11, up 3 spots, Alabama.
Alabama should be currently ranked below the Boise State Broncos.
I agree with that 100%.
The Boise Broncos.
Oh my God! No, by the way, down 2 spots. Number 10, Notre Dame
should be ranked below. The Boise Broncos.
Unchanged, number 9, BYU. Pew pew pew.
Yeah, thanks to Iowa State, suddenly they're feeling like the favorite in the Big 12, especially with Cam Rising being injured. I'm not gonna go ahead and light up the old cigar there that they're making the playoff as the Big 12 representative. But boy, it sure looks that way, doesn't it?
Yep. Oh boy, up 5 spots, unbeaten. Still, Indiana.
What the fuck are we doing here?
There it is.
Listen, I've said it for weeks, and no matter what fans of what teams want to say that I was oppressing their squad, I have said for weeks, with EJ Christian as my witness, that Indiana is the biggest bunch of overrated bullshit I have seen in my entire life. I do not understand. I can't fathom why I am supposed to take this team, who is the member of a top-heavy, overrated conference, hashtag I said it, in the first place. The Pac-12 is going to be replaced in prowess by the Big Ten in that they are overrated as hell. Period.
What would it say for you to? What would it say for you to say, okay, fine, they're not frauds anymore?
Well, golly, EJ, what's left on their schedule?
Well, they do have Ohio State,
Michigan, Ohio State, and Purdue. Are you impressed by anything there? Right?
So if they win those games, they like
about is it's a down year for Michigan. All I keep hearing about is an Ohio State team that doesn't belong and isn't all that great. Yet, by the way, the alleged quack motherfucker Oregon Ducks is supposed to be so much better than, even though they only beat them by 1 on the strength of some, coaching shenanigans and unfortunate decisions at the end that ran out the clock. Right?
Yeah.
Maybe Indiana isn't in and of itself the problem, so much as the Big Ten might be somewhat fraudulent.
Possibly, but again, if Indiana loses to Ohio State, or whatever, for example, we're saying, oh well, they're supposed to, the frauds,
and they'll still be ranked over like a Colorado team or some shit, which is asinine.
I see the argument though. I do see it. All right, number 7, unchanged, Tennessee.
Bro, listen, for a while now, I've been telling you it's hard for me to process this team. Like, here's the problem with Tennessee. They don't know who we are. We don't know they think they know who they are. I'll put it that way. We don't know who they really are. The pendulum swings pretty widely on Tennessee, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're either wicked good or not. they struggle with Florida, then beat a team. You're like, wait, that just happened? You beat Alabama again? What? Obviously there's some games remaining that could, shake them out, I think is the best way to say it, right?
Of course. Yeah, of course.
Like what's the best way to put this? Let me grope for the wording here when it comes to Tennessee. Like so you just beat Mississippi State. You're about to play Mississippi State. You just beat Kentucky, granted with a late fourth quarter push, but at least you did it by 2 scores. More than we could say for.
Yeah.
I forget how close that Georgia game was, but I don't know. Anyway, speaking of Georgia, they're still 2 weeks out on the schedule. I mean, listen, thanks to some of the strangest events in one of the strangest seasons in college football, in football history, in 2024 is an asinine year, man. Absolutely silly. But at the time they played North Carolina State and before Janet Jackson performed her halftime show on the season, they were ranked. Tennessee walloped them. Oklahoma was ranked. Tennessee won that football game.
Yeah.
Alabama, 7th at the time. They beat them.
Is it?
Here's the thing.
Go ahead.
And I know they're all like, Kyle, they lost to Arkansas. Okay, cool. Arkansas has been giving a lot of teams a lot of fucking problems, including beating LSU, beating Ole Miss. So I think this is the reason why, listen, if things held true to what they are at the moment, Tennessee has 4 ranked teams on their schedule. They're performing amazingly. Right?
And if we're also grading them against SEC is one thing. But if you grade them against the rest of the college football outside SEC, I would argue, as I said in the podcast last week, I think they're better than Miami, for example.
How can you rule that out at this point?
You can't.
And I get it, but you're going to be like, but Kyle, then why are you okay with Miami being ranked ahead of them? Well, okay, at some point, the record should matter a little bit, but more on that later.
All right. Number 6, a team they should be ahead of, but they're not. Penn State, down 3 spots.
What the fuck are we doing here, EJ? If you say it, how can I say it? Continue.
Yeah. I mean, you said the words. I didn't set you up much for that one.
You're absolutely right. Penn State is if Ohio State is so overrated as I'm being told they are, why is Penn State still in the top, I don't know, 10?
Right. All right. Number 5, up 1 spot, Texas. Okay.
For now, sure. I mean, you and I both know. Actually, no. Why is Texas lower than Ohio State? That's my question.
Why is Texas lower than both Miami? They should be number 3 in the country, in my opinion.
The answer is going to be, well, they only lost by a point to the number 1 team. Oh, look, EJ, it's rearing its ugly head. The quality loss defense.
Yeah,
anyway.
Of course, number 1. Yeah, because number 1. Number 4, up 1 spot, Miami.
I mean, that's fine. Like, if we were still in the 4-team playoff and Miami snuck in, I'm not mad at it. For one,
again,
their Heisman Trophy winning quarterback candidate is still healthy. See what I did there?
That's true. That's a very good point. Up 1 spot, Ohio State, number 3.
I think they should be 5 at the highest, and Penn State should not be in the top 10.
I agree. 2 unchanged. 2 and 1 unchanged. Georgia number 2, Oregon number 1.
I think both.
I will swap these 2 or whatever.
Yeah, I think Oregon and Georgia are both where they're at on the strength of the rest of their conference this week. I'm not going to say looking incompetent, but like not playing to the usual prowess we've come to expect. But I mean, listen, the games are allegedly tougher this time of year, right?
Yeah.
Like we're supposed to expect. What's his word? We're supposed to expect better competition. And I know people are like, but Kyle, Kentucky's not there. Listen, Kentucky would do pretty nicely in the Big Ten. I'm going to throw that out there.
I agree.
Even though I'm sure somebody is sure as hell going to push back, and I'm not here trying to act like that Georgia hasn't been a little, how you say, quirky.
But they also get everybody's best shot every week in that conference, though.
Right. And I get that everybody's still locked in on the Gators being so awful. excuse me, anybody notice that since they played UCF that they even got better? I'm not saying Billy Napier saved his job, but like they also gave Tennessee a fight. They don't want to talk about.
He might have actually, to be honest, saved his job though, because they played a lot better. They played a lot better than I thought they would before the year started. Honestly,
well,
even the losses look pretty good.
Well, yeah.
Tennessee lost. This lost. Georgia. You got to give them credit for that. To be in the games, they're competitive as hell. So something to build on, I will say, and losing a quarterback too on top of that. You know,
I don't know about the as hell part, but yeah, they've been competitive enough to where we're asking the question because they've been competitive enough. Is that a safe way to answer the question there, buddy?
Correct. Yeah. No, that's a good way to put it. If I had to rank the top 5 teams in college football right now, not based on what I saw here, based on what I feel, based who I in my opinion are best.
Money. Who do you trust?
Who are the 5 best teams in college football? In my opinion, it would go Georgia 1, okay, Oregon 2, Texas 3. I have to put Ohio State 4 only because look, Penn State sucks, but they were ranked fucking 3. So I have to give them that some degree.
No, you don't.
All right, and then number 5 is Tennessee.
Why can't you rate Tennessee against over Ohio State? Why can't you do that?
Fine, fine. Tennessee or Ohio State, whatever. That's fine.
Oh, that was. Speaking of twisting your arm, you said who was number 1 exactly?
Georgia.
Okay, and we went over that schedule a little bit, and you said who was number 2?
Oregon.
Okay. So, other than sneaking past Ohio State, who is Oregon's next best win?
I was going to get to that. Oregon, to their credit, Boise State is the best of this win, and to their credit, also too, Oregon.
Bit.
No, here's the thing though, but Kyle,
that they won't even put in the top 10 is their next win, and they
up.
barely stuck past that. The one I expected you to say was Illinois, who suddenly isn't in the top 25 anymore. Yeah. I tried to tell you, but you wouldn't listen.
Here's what Oregon's impressed me the last couple of weeks, though.
Shut up.
No. And I know you and I are not big Oregon guys anyway, so we get that. But here's where they really impressed me.
Quack, motherfucker.
Since that Ohio State game, they have not let up. Since that Ohio State game, they have stayed on the gas. They have stayed on the gas. So you remember Alabama lost to Georgia, beat Georgia, and remember after that struggle for 4 weeks in a row.
Okay,
Oregon hasn't done that. Yes, the quality.
Really? Here is your staying on top of things grouping. Are you ready?
Yeah.
I might be coming out like a Wolverine, but you have to be a free man to be allowed to express that Michigan is a big deal to beat this year. And maybe I don't align with your point, but Illinois is bad too. And don't bring that shit in my house as you're getting hot takes trying to boil what you're making here.
What I will say,
I even dad took you into submission with your.
I know. But what I will say, they have beaten those teams the way you're supposed to. If those games are close, they're all blowouts.
No, this is less about being good and more about those teams being bad. I have enough Dylan Gabriel to tell you that this is what this kid does. He obliterates bad teams and sneaks past good ones on the rare occasions he won. We're already forgetting he should have lost to UCF last year.
I still think
Oklahoma quarterback. Okay.
I still think if they play Ohio State again today, they lose Ohio State. Ohio State being weirdly.
What the fuck are we doing?
But they beat Ohio State already. You have to bake that in, okay? And they have beaten the teams the way you're supposed to.
No. So you're moving the goalpost. You're telling me all the stuff about, they never let up. What opportunity do they have to let up? Meanwhile, at least George is in the best conference in football, whereas the Big Ten, we have said several times on this and other shows, EJ Christian, is a Big Ten team that is top-heavy, period. And by the way, I forget who it was who lost to Wisconsin, it was Wisconsin losing to the Golden Gophers, right? That kind of makes my point. The Badgers kind of also in a hole with the Golden Gophers. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Anyway.
Whereas also Miami, who are number 4, and I have a problem with number 4, the reason I don't believe they're a top 5 team is because Now, granted, the Duke game was weird because they were down in the third quarter and then they just took over the third to the fourth quarter. But they have had an easy schedule and have almost lost multiple games against teams that shouldn't even be in the conversation in those games.
In a sorry ass ACC, you want me to argue with you because I've already agreed with you, so it's too.
No, right. So I'm applying style points into the argument for Oregon. That's what I'm saying. Anyway, Kyle,
applying points to Oregon.
Style points. So but
if you're using that same style points logic, Tennessee's number 2 over Oregon.
I would argue Tennessee, Oregon almost neck and neck. I will argue that, but we're weighing results also versus. Look, I got Tennessee in the top 5. So
no, fence sitter. I said what I said, and you said, "Oh, they're neck and neck." The definition of fence sitting. Of course, I am Kyle Nash, the student of the game. You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, and Threads at the SOTG. Find me on Facebook as the student of the game. Check out my writings with the Orlando Magic, by the way, Fans First Sports Network, as well as the Jacksonville Jaguars. And Fans First Sports Network also powers the Duval Dive. That would be Wednesday night, 7:30 we record, as well as live reactions. Since they're at Everbank Stadium, I'll be catching up with my dude Travis D. Holmes of Big Cat Country right there on the field at Everbank. Assuming he's not rating, then we'll just find him somewhere at Everbank Stadium. That's cool. But make sure you check that out. Plus, let's see, after this week's edition of UCF football takes place in Arizona State in Tempe. If you're one of those degenerates, look out who stays up that late to watch football content. Check out the Night Shift Live. We'll do an instant reaction for that. For UCF, that's going to be a late show. But I'll still be there to deliver it with the Black and Gold Banneret. Plus, UCF basketball is underway. Check out my work there. I will be debuting covering UCF women's basketball on Thursday night as they battle Marquette. UCF women's basketball debuts tonight. Look out for my guy Bryson Turner and Donnie Docs. Donnie Documents Strubo will be on site there too. So, man, I'm in the swing of it. Goodness gracious, great balls of fire. Also, Night Shift Podcast, Black and Gold Banner at YouTube channel. Subscribe to the Duval Dive YouTube channel, please. By the way, golly jeepers. Yeah, that's everything. So until next time, everyone, class dismissed.
All right, we get out of here for the Tuesday podcast. On the line with us here with the Chicago Bulls hat that I can't stand because I hate the Bulls since I was a kid. Matthew Allen with us, our old friend of the podcast, music journalist, of course. How you doing, Matt?
Doing pretty good. How you doing, EJ?
I'm doing good. Some more times for us, obviously. He's got word yesterday. The legendary, the great, in my opinion, I don't even think it's arguable. I think the greatest producer in the history of music, Quincy Jones, passes away age 91 yesterday. Your thoughts?
Yeah. So, like I said, and I said this on a live IG. For those of you out there who say that George Martin is the greatest, I'm not going to argue with you. But I also think that Quincy Jones is the GOAT when it comes to music producing. He's absolutely the best in terms of getting the best out of his musicians, getting the best out of his artists, and making sure that Terrace Martin, the great music producer, saxophonist, musician, once said that the biggest ego in the room is the song, and you have to put yours aside to make sure that the song is served the best. And nobody was better than that than Quincy Jones.
And what's funny about Q is that people always say, well, you know, what made him great? And to me, I have the opinion that even if you remove the stuff, either Michael Jackson, and obviously MJ is a massive conversation you and I have a lot on this podcast, everything we do, we always talk about him. But even if you remove the 3 albums to do Michael, plus the Wiz soundtrack, I still have Quincy number 1 all time.
Oh, absolutely.
What the work of Michael did put him to the stratosphere of that. But he was ready to go before Michael's even involved in his career.
Oh, totally. And about 2 years ago, well, almost 5 at this point, I wrote an article when I was writing for the Griot. It was the top 10 reasons why Quincy Jones was successful before Thriller. And it was based on...
I saw that. Yeah.
Something Timberland said about how, Quincy Jones didn't have his biggest hit until Thriller, and he was 50 years old. number one, he was 49, not quite 50. Number two, but I'm a bullet counter, so I'm like that. But number two, I understand what he was trying to do. He was trying to basically just galvanize people to say, hey, don't ever think that you're too old to achieve your greatest achievement. And I don't think he purposely meant to discredit everything that happened before Thriller. But there are a lot of people that just stone cold think that that's all that he did, or that he didn't do squat before that. I mean, he arranged for Dinah Washington. He arranged for Ray Charles. He arranged for Clark Terry. Clark Terry was one of his mentors and teachers. Of course, he was in Lionel Hampton's band when he was just a teenager. Lionel Hampton, the great band leader and vibes player. You know, he's worked with Cannonball Adderley and Sonny Stitt, Dizzy Gillespie, Sarah Vaughan, Louis Armstrong. And that's just in the 50s. That's just in the 50s that he was doing all that stuff. Then he was the first Black executive at a major record company. He had gotten into some debt trouble when he took one of his big bands to Europe and the show closed, and he got himself into a huge debt. So he got himself what he called a real job as the VP of A&R at Mercury Records.
Right.
And he actually parlayed that into becoming a pop producer, because he thought that pop producing wasn't really that big of a deal since he had already been writing for strings and arranging for other people. And he ended up having a big hit with Leslie Gore with It's My Party, and I'll Cry If I Want To. You Don't Own Me. They had well over 12, 14 hits with her alone. And that opened up him as a pop producer. And so that's in the 60s. And then, of course, in the 70s, he starts producing for Aretha Franklin. He discovers the Brothers Johnson and produces for them. All those things, and all of the big thing about it, and I wrote a separate article about this, was the fact that Quincy threw away that what would have been a very lucrative extension as the VP to be a movie composer. In the mid 1960s, the Mercury Records basically said, we're going to give you like a 20-year contract, $50,000 a year, which in 1964 money is about $1 million. $1 million. It's
a lot of money.
It's a lot of money. And he said, nope. He went to Hollywood because there's no Black movie composers. I'm going to be the first one. He took a huge gamble, but 33 film scores and like a dozen television theme songs later, he bet on himself, and it paid off.
You know, one of the things about Quincy I forget, because he has such a long list of things he's accomplished, you know, and the list of artists he's accomplished, the songs he's produced and all that. It's easy to forget some of the songs and theme songs that he wrote that you forget or didn't even know. Like, obviously, the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air theme song, he wrote that, of course. The Austin Powers, the theme song for Austin Powers. I forgot the name of it. I posted it yesterday.
Soul Bossa Nova.
Thank you. Written by him. But I forgot that the theme song for, it might have been the second song she did on her show, Oprah's show. The second song she did. My favorite Oprah theme song.
Yes.
I gotta find it here. I'm just gonna find it right now. Keep talking. I want to find it right now if I can.
I just put a friend onto that. So about 1989, yes, it was out.
I love that.
Yeah. So that's Quincy and Rod Temperton. Of course, Rod Temperton was we all know Rod. I mean, he worked a lot with Quincy from the late 70s on through the rest of his life until he had passed away about almost 10 years ago. So yes, he did that theme song. Actually, Jazzy Jeff did the theme of Fresh Prince, but it's because Quincy did the original one. Will didn't like it, but he didn't tell Quincy. He told Jazzy Jeff. Jazzy Jeff created a beat that Will wrote on, presented it to Quincy, and Quincy was egoless enough to know that their song was better than the song that he did, and then he let them use it, and now it's the most famous rap song on the face of the earth. And it's because, once again, the song is the biggest ego in the room, and Quincy understood that. Another theme song that he absolutely did write was The Street Beater, which is the Sanford and Son theme song.
That's right. He did the one, yeah.
Yeah, he did that. And another thing that people don't know So if you are familiar with the movie Kill Bill, every time Beatrix Kiddo saw one of the ops and that doo-doo-doo, wah, 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 wah,
Yep.
that's
him?
the theme to Ironside. That's Quincy Jones.
Wow. People forget how, dude, this dude's so dope. Here's the theme song, my favorite Oprah theme song of all time. Even though today I feel some kind of way about Oprah, this is still my favorite theme of all time. The best. And that bass line comes in, boom, 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 right here. Some of you'll be a Carlton, best friends dancing. Fucking dope, dude. I love the when Carlton does it too. Also,
it's hilarious. It's hilarious. Hysterical.
Every time I see that part on the show, I flip out. I'm just gonna find it here real quick here for the listeners. There's right there.
Oh yeah, this is so.
See you on
funny.
TV. Have a good show.
Thank you.
Yo, he's dancing like he's in a room by himself. He's dancing in the room like he's by himself. I love it. I love it.
He's the best, dude. I told you, Carlton's the best character of the whole show. Do you remember the sorry about that? Do you remember the there were some comments that came out a couple of years ago, I think it might have been 5-6 years ago, about Quincy being very critical of the Beatles and calling them like horrible musicians. Was that a real quote?
Yeah, that's from an interview he did with GQ magazine. I think what he was talking about was when he initially met the Beatles.
Right.
So the context, because context is important. The context is basically when he first knew the Beatles, when they were first starting out, which is like 1962, 1963, he said, yeah, Paul McCartney was one of the worst bass players in the world, and Ringo wasn't a good drummer.
Yeah.
But you have to understand that Quincy Jones has worked with the best of the best. And as I love the Beatles, but I'm not going to lie and act like they're the greatest musicians in the face of the earth in terms of being virtuosos. I mean, particularly when you compare them to people like John Paul Jones and John Bonham and Jimmy Page or Stuart Copeland and all these other virtuoso rock musicians who came after them, or like a Keith Moon or John Entwistle. I mean, even though I love Paul McCartney as a bassist, and I think that Ringo is a super underrated drummer. But I think at the time he felt, they were bad. And what he was trying to convey in the music he was doing, he felt like they couldn't do it. And they probably, at their own admission, probably couldn't have been like session players the way that he was used to using session players, or jazz players the way that he was used to using them. And that's okay.
Here's one of the quotes. Right. Here's one of the quotes. When asked about the Beatles, Jones said, quote, "They were the worst musicians in the world. They were no playing motherfuckers. Paul was the worst bass player I ever heard. And Ringo, don't even talk about it." Here's the thing with Quincy Jones too also. Quincy Jones, people may not like that because a lot of people are very protective of the Beatles and their legacy.
Mm-hmm.
You got to understand Quincy Jones and where he comes from. He's a musician's musician. So the ego and the music and what he, even more than an artist, the bolts and the very core of music, that guy, his perspective is different from anybody else who loves music, even us as critics. You know, he comes from a place that I literally create music and produce what you bring to me. So his critique is a little bit different from most other people. That's why, even though it was bold to say the things he said, at the same time, I understood the context and where he was coming from.
Yeah, I don't think it was bold. I just think it was an old man that doesn't have a filter anymore. You know, if you listen to other old artists, they don't censor themselves because they feel they don't need to. You know what I'm saying? Because it's like, you know, what are you holding your tongue for? So with Quincy, you know, you have to also understand the context of the time. Who are the best bass players that he's been around? He's used to being around Ray Brown and Ron Carter.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
So his standards are higher than anybody else's.
Yeah. And Philly Joe Jones, he's used to being around guys like that. You know, he's not. So when you have Paul McCartney, who had only even been playing bass for a couple of years. Remember, when he joined the Quarrymen in the 50s, he was a guitar player. He started playing bass shortly after that. You know, not everybody can just pick a bass up just from not playing bass to become a great bass player. Nobody can do that. You know, I'm sure if you go to Flea, he didn't start playing bass until Hello Slovak told him to from the Red Hot Chili Peppers. He was a trumpet player before that, like Quincy Jones. And if you probably listen to Flea play in the first 3 years he was learning bass, he probably wasn't the best bass player in the world. It takes time. And he probably just caught the Beatles at a time where they were still sort of like learning themselves as individual musicians. Like they knew how to be in a band and make songs. You know, songwriting was the main thing about the Beatles, and being musicians was sort of secondary.
Right. One more thing we get out of here. We mentioned Michael Jackson. Obviously, he's worked with Michael Jackson. I mean, they did 3 albums together. The three biggest albums in history of music. You have 3 of the top 20 selling albums all time, 2 of the top 5, and the biggest album of all time, Thriller, of course.
Yeah.
I compared last night. I was thinking about this too. I compared the team of Michael Jackson and Quincy Jones to like Michael Jordan and Phil Jackson.
Yeah.
Would you agree, or even Tom Brady, Bill Belichick in football? Would you agree that the artist tandem of Michael Jackson and Quincy Jones is the greatest music artist, producer artist tandem in history of music? Is that close? Would you agree?
It's definitely up there. Yeah, I mean, like I said, I think that for me, it's definitely up there. I mean, it's probably my favorite. I mean,
who would you put? If not them,
in terms of artist producers,
like the tandems, like as a team,
like tandems. Okay, so in terms of tandems, I mean, in terms, I would say like Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis, for instance.
With who?
Or
which artist?
With Janet Jackson.
You put them on level with Michael and Quincy?
Yeah, I would actually.
Oh.
I would put them on the level of Michael and Quincy just because of the synergy of the creation that happened. I prefer the albums just slightly over I prefer Michael and Quincy's albums over Janet's albums with Jam and Lewis, but just slightly. But you can't argue with success. I mean, from Control, all the way to now, the albums that Janet has done with Jam and Lewis are undeniable, particularly those first 4 records: Control, Rhythm Nation, Janet, and The Velvet Rope. And you can go to even All For You after that, if you'd like, but you can't argue with success. And of course, I'm going to say, like we talked about, the Beatles with George Martin, particularly from 1965 to 1969, like with Rubber Soul and Revolver, Sgt. Pepper, Magical Mystery Tour, the White Album, Let It Be, sort of, and Abbey Road. Those are classic albums one after the other. Those are probably the only 3 that I would say, and the only 2 that I would say the Beatles with George Martin, and I would say Janet with Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis.
That's good. I like that. Obviously, I think when you look at I gotta look at success. Like obviously, when you produce the biggest album of all time, when you produce the 4th best album of all time in Bad, when you produce a top 20 album Off the Wall, and of course The Wiz and whatnot. Yeah, I guess I'm looking at more from a more closed, and of course We Are the World too, especially as well. You know, the work that with that. I guess I'm looking from a little more silo-ish point of view. I forget George Martin and Beatles definitely up there. Jerry Jam Lewis with Janet's phenomenal. I mean, who would you put like? So that'd be a Mount Rushmore right there. That'd be 3 of the Mount Rushmore there. Your 4th, who like? Would it be Missy and Timbaland?
Timbaland? I would say Missy and Timbaland. Missy and Timbaland.
Oh, really? Okay.
No, you're right. That's a very good point. Missy and Timbaland, to me, they're like the last Black originals when it comes to music. And what I mean by that is like, there's nothing that I can trace back to when I hear their music. Like if you hear the Beatles, you can trace that back to, oh, that sounds like such and such. Even when you play like Michael or Michael or Janet stuff, like, oh, that sounds like such and such, or that's derivative of this. With Missy and Timbaland, and that's when whether they're working on Missy stuff or whether they're like doing Aaliyah or some other stuff they do together, or Total.
Yeah,
there's very little I can trace back to in terms of, oh, that sounds like such and such. Like there's nothing that sounded like the drum pattern of 1 in a Million by
Right.
Aaliyah, and it's especially when you take his drum beats and his production, mix it with the slower pace of rhythm that Missy is writing for Aaliyah in terms of her cadence. Nobody was doing that at that time. Or you go back to like Beat Me 911 or All in My Grill and all that stuff, Lick Shots. It's just like, what the heck is that? You know, so I definitely would say Missy and Timbaland would be up there in terms of tandems. But getting back to just Quincy, Quincy working with Michael Jackson was, like I said, it's so severely explosive that it really puts so many things into its shadow, including the careers of those two people. Everything that Michael did after Bad was going to be compared to those three albums, whether he liked it or not. Anything that Quincy did was going to get compared to those three albums after that, no matter whether he liked it or not. The problem is that Michael cared more about that than Quincy did. Quincy's like, well, screw it. I'm just going to go and make Vibe magazine and call it a day and do other things.
And it was Michael that decided to part ways, not the other way around, right?
Yeah,
Quincy would have stayed with Michael before that if he wanted to, right?
No, I think that it was a mutual parting of ways. I just think that there wasn't I don't think there was a meeting where we said, okay, I think we've done enough, like shake hands, let's go. I think they were both ready to move on. I think that Michael was ready to prove that he could do it on his own. Michael was curious to be the boss because Quincy was still the boss when they worked together. Once they got to Bad, they were more even because it says Bad is produced by Quincy Jones and Michael Jackson. Right. So I think at that point he was ready to prove himself and to just search for new sounds that maybe Quincy wasn't ready to explore at that moment in terms of embracing other aspects of technology, because Quincy still was very much into using live musicians, even though Back on the Block has a lot of synthesizer work and things of that nature. But I think that Q also was ready to stop because, like I said, he wanted to do this one last record. He was getting deep into his executive bag with Quest Records. He wanted to really flesh out his publishing company. So I think that they were both ready to move on. I don't actually think, like, for people who think that Michael should have stayed with Quincy beyond Bad, I actually don't agree with that. I don't agree either. I think that what we got from Michael and from Quincy after that is more than good enough. It's maybe it doesn't measure up in terms of sales, but in terms of the quality over time, I definitely am glad we got Dangerous in History. I'm glad that Quincy gave us Vibe magazine. We got Q's Juke Joint. We got Back on the Block. We got the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. You know, so
I wouldn't have minded Quincy being on Invincible. Honestly, I think he could have done a really good job on Invincible. The songs on there definitely had some of those songs could have had a Quincy vibe, off the wall Thriller vibe. Yeah. Some of those songs on there could use his touch a little bit.
I would have liked one more from them, after Invincible. I think that like after the trial and after the acquittal, and Michael has time to just chill out. I think it would have been great for them just to go back in one more time.
That's the roots.
Just go back to the roots, not try to. And Michael would have done that with his mentality because he was so ambitious, but just go back to the let's just do it for the love of it. Let's not care about record sales. Let's just do something that, like Quincy says, that just gives us goosebumps. And if it sells a lot, it sells a lot. If it doesn't, then that's okay. I would have loved to have just seen that. I mean, there's lots of things I would have loved to have seen from Michael and Quincy at that point, both together and individually. Like, this is it, for an example. I didn't want, I would have much rather have gotten another album out of Michael with Quincy or not. I would have rather gotten an MTV. I would have rather an MTV Unplugged episode from Michael.
That part. Yep.
That would have been great. In terms of Quincy, I wish Quincy didn't slow down his producing as much as he did. I know that he got more into management at that point, like in the 2000s and 2010s, particularly with jazz musicians. whether it's Jacob Collier, Emily Bear, Alfredo Rodriguez, Richard Bona. So
yeah,
I wish she would have continued to produce more pop music or more like dance music beyond bad. But look, what we got from both of them is great, and we'll miss both of them.
Absolutely. Anyway, you can follow Matthew on X or any social media platform at Headphone Addict. Also, I love his TikTok series on Let's Get Physical on a very random vinyls or maybe cassettes sometimes, right?
Say that one more time.
No, it's like your TikTok project, Let's Get Physical. I love it. I think it's fantastic. Finding all these, these gems. It's not just vinyls either, right? It's sometimes it's a cassette. Sometimes it's
cassettes. So Get Physical is it's mostly vinyl. Sometimes it's mostly vinyl and CDs, but sometimes I have cassettes. Right. Sometimes I have VHS tapes. I also have a thing called Badge Talk, where I talk about my stories as a music journalist, using the laminates and badges that I had going to events and things. That's because cool. I'm proving something that the internet doesn't last forever, and having physical copies of things is important because, number one, the sound quality is still better in terms of music, in my opinion, particularly CDs and vinyl compared to MP3s and FLAC and all that stuff. But Spotify can go down at some point, or there'll be Apple exclusive deals. You can only listen, like Robert Glasper has Apple exclusive deals, so you can only hear his last couple albums on Apple. I'm like, no, if I have a CD in my hand, there's never going to be a moment where I can't not hear this. If I have a vinyl in my hand, there's never going to be a moment where I can't not hear it. That's why I want to do this series, is to show people like, having physical copies is still a cool thing. And at some point, people are going to realize that it's still an extremely essential thing if you want to own your music.
Yeah. Guys, check it out. His TikTok, his Instagram, also great project. I enjoy watching every time you post them. I always watch immediately. It's like always must appointment watching for me. So Matt, good job as always, man. We'll talk soon.
Thank you, Ernest, for having me once again.
You got it, brother. You got it.
Thank you.